Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Wednesdays. Today, I'm joined by Steele FC, and we're excited to talk about his most recent music video for Save Room and just his music journey in general. How's it going?
It's good. I'm hanging out on my couch. I'm eating some overnight oats. Very yum. My little pup is sleeping right here. Her name's Joy. And she's not a little pup. She's old.
How old is your pup?
13.
13. Oh. She looks sleepy. Getting cuddly for the cuddle weather.
Exactly. It's cold.
So yeah, first, if you want to just give a little intro about yourself, how did you get into music and where did Steele FC come from?
My parents always played music around the house growing up, and my dad used to play music. In the 70s, he played in a band that was managed by Haley Crystal, who started and owned CBGBs. And so they were kind of like the house band there. They didn't really like go much further than, you know, the CBGBs and Max's Kansas City circuit, but he and my mom lived on Rivington Street throughout the 70s and grew up listening to all the records that they would put on. And my dad got me a pair of drumsticks when I was like 2, and I would just hit on the furniture, like play along to Tears for Fears and stuff like that. And then I started to like learn how to play drum kit when I was in 2nd grade, and then from there just played in bands playing drums with like all of my sister's 5 years older, so I'd play with all her friends, so that, you know, they were all 18 and I was 13, just like
Getting in on the action.
with, you know, my mom and my dad on the side of the stage. And then when it was done, they helped me pack up and I went home, and my sister and her friends did their thing, and I kind of did that throughout high school. And then once I went to college, I played drums in a band called the Britneys, that I still play drums in. And then in the last couple of years, I just decided that I wanted to start singing and playing guitar as well. So I started writing my own music, and then within this last year, I started releasing it. And then the world ended after about like 5 shows. So it's a weird, like, trying to make progress right now without having like a tangible way of growing, I guess, like hard to grasp it.
Yeah.
Really, but it's been fun. I've been doing sessions and giving really long-winded answers as to how I started playing music.
No, that was a good answer. There's a lot going on there. That's really cool. You grew up with basically just around music your whole life. Was your dad still playing in a band when you were a kid, or that was before?
Yeah. He and my mom did music and arts basically until we were born. My mom's a painter, and once she got pregnant with my sister, she kind of realized that like the arts world is not necessarily the friendliest place for pregnant mothers and then also young children. So she kind of like started transitioning out of that a little bit, and my dad also started transitioning out of music, and then into just dad stuff. So, you know, we grew up in the city, and it wasn't like he had like a little drum room or something that he could just go and do his thing in. But then eventually, like by the time I was like 12, we had a drum kit in the house I grew up in, and I pissed all the neighbors off. So he would play sometimes, and I'd be like, I can do that. I'm way better, Dad. And so it was kind of like he would try and show me stuff, and I'd be like, yeah, okay.
You guys ever play music together?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it was trickier because we both played the drums growing up. So it's like, you know, sometimes we would set up like 2 kits or like part of 2 kits and we would play together. But for the most part, it was just more like one of us would take a seat and be like, look at this, and then ask for a turn. And
yeah. That's cool though, to have somebody, you know, musically inclined to bounce off of. And
definitely. My mom is probably as close as you could get to being a musician without playing an instrument. Like all of my music tastes and knowledge comes from her. Like growing up, you know, I listened to all of like the early 2000s alt stuff, but that was all like my mom getting it from Amazon. She would like go on Amazon and buy like related to. So like my first concert was the Strokes at like the MSG Theater, when they were doing like Room on Fire. That was my first concert, and then just a bunch of stuff like that. And when I was in middle school, I think like my second concert was the Dandy Warhols at CBGB, and just like my mom just kept the train going, and she was listening to new music instead of like old music. So I kind of just grew up like a teenager in the 2000s would, like listening to my mom's CDs in the car and stuff.
It sounds like you like had a lot of music in your life growing up, which is really cool. And seemingly did a lot of those bands you listened to with your mom and like your dad's style of music, did that influence what you would want to produce yourself?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are like really drawn to playing garage music and take a lot from like Psych in the 60s, and I definitely like went through a period where I was all about that, but as a child, like I didn't grow up listening to stuff like that my parents listened to when they were young. So I think my foundation is probably a little more rooted in like, you know, definitely 2000 stuff, but also a lot of like new wave stuff. We listened to like a lot of Devo growing up, Tears for Fears, The Police, stuff like that, and Television, etc., Talking Heads. So I think like that sort of 70s and 80s like melodic new wave stuff is definitely really big for me. I always look to like Brian Eno, David Bowie, when I'm writing stuff. And then also like Sparklehorse is one of my favorites, and he, you know, I guess is like late 90s, early 2000s, and I found him through my mom just buying his CD on Amazon. So like we would drive around and I would be in like 5th grade and we'd be listening to that. And so he's like a big factor in my writing and just how I listen to music. So those are,
I've never heard of Sparklehorse before. That name is amazing.
He's a really, really interesting musician. He was very insular. He had like a recording studio in North Carolina, I think, where he did all of his recordings. And he was just sort of a big country, like, not country musician, but a country boy, essentially. And yeah, he had like a private life in the mountains that he lived, and he went on tour with Radiohead in the UK, I think supporting either like the Bends or Pablo Honey, and then he had like a freak accident where he overdosed and then had severe damage because he was like paralyzed as a result of it, and then he got more and more insular and just sort of like recorded this music alone in the mountains, in the woods. And unfortunately he took his own life in like 2010 or 2011, but his music is just very like, it's one of a kind, you know. It's like really melodic but also very like jagged and kind of obtuse at times, and it's like really delicate but also kind of hard, and I don't know, just he shreds, you know.
I'm definitely intrigued. I think I need to give him a listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was listening to your song Save Room. I definitely hear some of those elements of like a little bit of new wavy, kind of like a very like atmospheric, like melodic style sounding type, easy to listen to song. What was the backstory behind like the story of the song, like how it got created?
I had gotten a guitar, like a cheap Dan Electro, a couple years ago, and I was just like playing around with it, and I wrote the song on it, and then I had the verse, but I didn't like the chorus, so I kept it just like sitting for a year or so, and I was like, yeah, fuck that song. And then when I was thinking of like writing again, I was like, let me revisit it. So then I rewrote the chorus and the bridge, and the lyrics are just, it's kind of just about like observing dating and romance in the modern world and also in New York. You know, endless shows and songs and books about being, and movies about being single in New York and trying to find love, and people treating each other poorly because there's like always something better around the corner, and like, you know, just endless options. And so like I wanted to write kind of from that perspective, and then also from the perspective of just people who mistreat each other in courtship, you know, how people like to play with each other's emotions and treat like romance as sort of a game and a status thing, as opposed to just naturally being like, oh, this feels good. So I kind of tried to write it like third person in that, you know, realm. And I tried to draw a lot from like the Kinks or Blur, because they write a lot of third person critiques on modern life and like their surroundings. So I just kind of wanted to draw from that.
And the music video you released just the end of last month, it's kind of a cool compilation of like different little video clips of, I don't know if it's like home videos or like things you found, but it gives a little like, how do I describe it, like a dreamlike feel to the song, and kind of like how you're trying to figure out like that world. So that's kind of cool how you incorporated that into the video.
That was one of my soccer teammates. I play, in normal times I play sports like 3 to 4 times a week, and I've just got a bunch of friends that we all do teams with. And my friend Jules was moving to Mexico City, and he does video art, and I wanted him to make a video for it. And he, you know, he does a lot of sort of field footage of just like candid life. So I really wanted that. And then he moved down to Mexico City and was like, you should document it, let's make a video out of it. But it was like the week that coronavirus like went off, and everybody had to halt their lives. So he just moved to a new country and a new city, and he had never been there before. And he was just sort of on his bike, just riding around, like, you know, alone, just looking at the town in the city. So he kind of just transitioned into shooting the video about that. And then we decided to like add me in, almost as if like, at first it was going to be kind of like a FaceTime in, and then we just sort of went off the rails a little bit, and I was just sort of shooting wherever I was. So I inserted myself in his artwork, and then my friend Jillian Milberg, edited it all.
Yeah, there were some like little like in the car like FaceTimes, but then like performances in front of the house and things like that too, just like sprinkled throughout.
It's not like an abandoned building upstate, and
cool.
I asked my girlfriend to shoot me in there, and she was like, I guess. And then we got in there, and there was a couch that was like right at the entrance, and there was a dead cat on the couch. And I didn't notice it. She was like, why did you bring me into this place where there's a dead animal? Because we had our dog with us too. And I was like, I thought that was the scarf that someone left. So I had breath for most of the time we were in there.
That's kind of cool that it's a lot of footage of your friend just kind of exploring his new space and trying to figure out, you know, where he is now in life. And that's kind of a similar feeling to, I think, what people go through when they're trying to like find someone to be with, explore life with, and like what will that feel like to me. So that's cool that that's incorporated.
Everybody else living their life, and it's like you feel like, yeah, an outsider, but it's third person, and to someone else, you know, you also probably look like that, you know, like, oh, there's someone living their life and I'm insular. So it's kind of,
yeah, I feel like I've been talking to a lot of people about just like how we view other people in these days, and like especially like now it's a lot there's a lot more time for us to like think about that and be like, oh, I'm walking by this person who has this story and I don't know what their story is. Like they could have had all of this, you know, stuff happen in their life and they look so normal.
It's funny, I always have, I think like that a lot when I'm on the street or like on the train, and you're standing next to someone and you know, you register them as a person, but that's kind of it. And then when you think like, oh shit, like that person has a name. Everyone on the street has a name. And then like they all have friends and family. And it's just kind of, and jobs and experiences. And it's kind of funny to think like that we just orbit around all these different universes all the time. I mean, I know it's like, that's very basic, but it's like a fun thing to just sort of like meditate on a little bit without sounding too pretentious, that like everybody, you know, people aren't people in a way until you like actually like talk with them and you're like, oh, that's your name, you know. It's like a very, I don't know, it's like a city conditioning where it's just like you're in your lane and people orbit around, but that's their lane. And it's kind of like you see thousands of people in a day and you don't know anything about any of them, so it's just kind of, it's funny to think, you know.
Yeah, they play like extras in our life, and you kind of just go around like, oh yeah, walking through, and they have their own life that they're living and thinking and thoughts. And
you're walking down the street and you see someone that like looks kind of like an athlete, you're like, look at that fucking guy, and they're probably numerous times a day we're walking down the street and someone's like, look at that fucking hipster.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, I feel like being like contained for like this period of time, like with like thinking about stuff like that, has been really interesting. Have you been able to like produce any new music while like being quarantined?
I recorded a full EP in July.
Nice.
I worked with a producer in Georgia. His name is Drew Vandenberg, and he lives in Athens. And I was going to drive down to Athens to record at his studio, but then with all of the mandatory quarantining from both entering and leaving, we just decided against it. So I recorded upstate at my girlfriend's house, and her band has been demoing up there and writing. So I was able to have access to like the microphones that they were using, and I brought up some of my gear, and the drummer in their band, Jacob Faber, engineered it all. And we had Drew on the other line on the computer through a program like in Pro Tools, so he could hear everything we were doing as we were doing it in real time, but he was quickly FaceTimed in. So it was kind of funny, like for a week, you just pop up the computer screen and he would just be right there, and then, you know, coach us through like mic placement and levels, and then they would both sit there while I did all the takes. So it's like a fully tech-made instrumental. I mean, a tech-made, not instrumental, just fully live album, I guess, recorded through technology. We did it all through amps and live drums, and it was kind of funny to do it kind of like in an analog way, but with heavy use of technology to communicate. So we did that, and I just got the master back on Friday, and we're figuring out the release plan right now, but in most likely January 2021 it'll be out. And I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be good. It sounds very real and mature, I guess.
What are some of the influences that came into creating that?
The same sort of like influence from Eno and Bowie, Brian Wilson, Sparklehorse. But then when we started recording it, it kind of sounds a lot, I don't know, it just takes on its own vibe as you start recording. And listening back, like the guitars honestly have a lot of like tones, and not performance similarities because they're way better, but like there are elements of like the Allman Brothers that are on there, and part of it just sort of sounds like almost like a early 70s like not Americana record, but like the big like tones of like the band or Allman Brothers, stuff like that. So it's like almost a little bit southern sounding, which I wasn't anticipating, but then hearing it back, it does have like those qualities, which I'm surprised by, but I'm into. It wasn't entirely what I was expecting going in, but then coming out of it, I'm like, whoa, that sounds really cool, you know? It's, yeah, that it manifested in a way that was slightly different but worked probably better.
Has it been like, I know you said you just started kind of becoming this, solo artist, Steele FC, right before quarantine began. How have you been trying to market yourself, in different ways that you like, since you can't do the normal like shows and like touring?
Yeah, I've been doing live story stuff. Like in the first half of the quarantine, I was doing Instagram lives and streams a lot. For like Baby's All Right, ones that I did on my own, for the Sultan Room and stuff like that. So it was kind of like keeping with the virtual vibe. And then I guess we're just trying to have me be as present as possible through the screen, video content. We've got this music video for the EP. We're going to have a couple of videos that are going to be out, and just trying to stay as present as possible without being able to physically be there. So a lot of video content and a lot of visual stuff, and trying to do interviews and photo shoots and just sort of keep that circulating. It's it's weird because there's only a couple routes to take, I think, as a musician, and playing shows is about half or 3/4 of that. And so it's kind of bizarre to think about how to market yourself and get your name out there without that, but we're slowly figuring out a way.
A lot of stuff that I feel like there are a lot of bands that heavily rely on strictly shows, and they don't think a lot about social media or their online presence. So it's a whole different mindset. You have to flip a switch and start working on that.
Yeah, it's hard to make money doing rock music if you're just relying on streams.
Yeah,
just the way it is. Other genres of music, that's different. You can make money and build a following without doing as much shows, but because rock is such a live dominant industry, people want to go and they want to move around to it and they want to see it live because it's live.
Yeah,
a lot harder without. But I've been doing some outdoor acoustic shows as well. I did one at Our Wicked Lady on their roof, and then I did this like pop-up for the restaurant The Smile. They were doing like a stoop sale and like food exhibition, I guess, on Bond Street, and they had the whole street closed off, and I did like a acoustic set. And so it's kind of weird feeling like a folk musician, but it's a way to at least play and do some sort of tangible performance.
yeah.
Screen where everything lags.
I feel like I've heard it from a lot of musicians. It's like, it's so weird just to play to a screen and not get that energy and feedback from an audience. And it's just like you're playing to yourself, but you're looking at yourself play, and it's crazy.
Yeah. There is that. I did a thing for Babies TV, and I kind of wanted to like skirt the issue of relying on the internet and trying to get a good stream, because it's just, there's so many variables and it's so hard to get good sound over a stream on the internet, especially if you don't have a pro gear. So I devised this whole thing where I was like, I'm gonna make a TV special for it. So I did all this footage of me playing live. Like I recorded like an acoustic thing. I did one where I played guitar and sang over the track. And then I did one where I played every instrument on a song. I started with the drums, I recorded it, and I used the first take, and then I went into bass, did the first take of that, and then all the guitars and the vocals. So it was still like live technically, because it was just my first go of everything. And I videoed that, and then it was like a 25-minute special where you're like flipping through the channels, and I put a lot of time and energy into it. And the last video was like a public access TV special. So I like made it all weird, and I overlaid all this video as I was performing. And one of the videos on it, I guess, was like the metadata had like an alarm in it. And I just layered in a video of toilet paper being made over 2 other videos of me. But the metadata alerted YouTube to copyright infringement. And even though it was an unlisted video, when it was time to premiere it, the thing was taken down. So I had trying to watch, but no one could see it. And so I was like, fuck, like people bought tickets, completely toast. And I had to just take my phone and video my computer screen on the live stream. And I was so embarrassed. I felt so fucking dumb.
No.
Yeah, and it was just like this video that was, the title was in Russian and it had like 100 views, but that was what set it all off. So I felt like a fool. And then I just, resorted to just doing live stuff after that. I was like, well, let me save the energy and not fuck up.
It sucks because like it's nice to try and do something different, because just watching all these people just sit and do live performances in their own spaces is nice, but it can get a little like monotone after a while. And having put in all that energy into doing something like really cool, like are you able to like release that video and like take a little bit of it out now and like put it somewhere?
Parts up on YouTube. I put up like the live video, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that's still on my phone that I could probably re-release. But yeah, keep the canceled one out.
You had to go through a name change recently.
Yeah.
It went from like Brooklyn Steele to Steele FC.
Yeah, so I am a big dummy, and I had released 2 singles previously just as Steele. Steele is my name, and I just thought that it'd be easier because I wouldn't have to change social media stuff or make a new page. I was just like, okay, all my accounts already say Steele on it, I'll just be Steele. And then I felt really awkward when people would be like, oh, what's your project called? What's your band called? Because I would always just go, oh, it's just Steele. And I like always felt very embarrassed about that. So before this single came out, I switched distribution agents and I was like, I want a new name. So I was racking my brain for titles and I was like, fuck it, like let me be Brooklyn Steele. That'll be so funny because the venue's called Brooklyn Steele and I'm Brooklyn Steele and my name is Steele and I'm from Brooklyn, so perfect, because really when you think about it, they stole my name. So that was always a joke that I would make. So I committed to it and I was like, let me put Brooklyn in parentheses, kind of like Sandy Alex G.
Yeah.
That's funny. And so I did a whole campaign for it as Brooklyn Steele, but Spotify has all these algorithms and if you're a new artist, it fucks you up a little bit. So I had to get a whole new Spotify artist page as Brooklyn Steele. So I had all my old songs as Steele, and then I had Brooklyn Steele for the new release, which was a new artist, so I didn't get any of the algorithmic recognition. I was like, I'm fucking stupid. I'm so dumb. The release came out and like it was a lot harder to get in like the Spotify playlisting algorithm. So I was like, you fucked this, you idiot. But I was like, whatever, at least I got a new name. And I was kind of like, maybe one day Brooklyn Steele will sue me and I'll get in some like, public legal battle and it'll be great for my name and blah, blah, blah. But I thought that would happen like a year from now, 2 years from now, if I was putting out like my first album and it was like, I had a press run, but I just got a call instead and they were like, we need to talk. This is Brooklyn Steele. And I got on the phone with the owners and I just said, am I in trouble? And they're like, no, you're not in trouble, but legally you can't have the same name as us. It's too conflicting. You're one letter off our name. So I agreed to change the name after a cease and desist. And I was like, wow, you really fucked it now, you idiot. You had one name change and you blew it. You changed it to the new one, ruined your release, and now you have to change it again because you're stupid. So I had to change it again, and then I had to but then I was able to get all of my Spotify pages merged, so now it's all in one spot. And kind of doing the new name allowed me to re-release it in a way, and then I had the video come out, and so now I'm grateful. I think it's a better name. I think Steele FC is like, it's goofy because I like soccer a lot. I'm obsessed with it, and all of my friends play soccer with me, and all of my bandmates in the live band, I made sure that they're all good at playing soccer so we can play together all the time. So like before shows, before the end of the world, we would go play. And, you know, I envision in the future on tour in another city, we'll go and kick around before load in or sound check, and it'll be a good way to de-stress. So Steele FC just kind of seemed like logical, I guess. And it's shorter, it's streamlined, and there's a lot of merch capabilities. So I think it worked out. I think it rolls off the tongue easier, and I'm not necessarily embarrassed to say it anymore when people are like, oh, what's your name? It's kind of just taken on an identity. And to really commit to the bit, the other day I got a tattoo, and I was gonna get hand tattooed on my hand, but me and the artist both kind of agreed that that probably wasn't best. So I went with the FC to like really hammer it home. So hopefully I don't get sued by some soccer team. I just like really regret trying to be a musician in like 20 years, which I don't think I will, but you know, if I give up, I'll just look at my wrist every day and be depressed, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. So it's kind of a reminder to keep working, because I gotta validate the hand tattoo that's gonna get me a lot of jobs.
So I'm not super up on like the soccer lingo. What does FC mean? Football club. Okay, cool.
It's still football club. And it makes sense because all my bandmates play soccer with me on a team, and I can be our own football club now. Yeah. And I also want to, you know, kind of make it a traveling thing where like when we're on tour, we challenge bands from other cities and be like, yeah, watch us, like we'll kick your ass, because we're pretty good. And it's a pretty worldly band. You know, we have like our drummer is from England, our guitar player is from Belgium, our bass player is from Argentina, and then our other guitar player is like first generation or second generation, I guess, Mexican parents. So he grew up playing, and then the guy that plays the percussion, I grew up with him in the city, but he played travel growing up. And I started playing later in life, but I can disguise it with people that are really good. So it's good. Hopefully we can get sponsored by Nike or Adidas, and they can make uniforms for a lifetime contract of wearing the kit every show.
That would be awesome to have your own like football jerseys, little logo or something.
Yeah, I can just get one measly sponsorship or gift giveaway. This would be worth it. Yeah. I'm just gonna add this little baby into the screen real quick.
Oh, we want to see puppies. Yes. Oh. It's so nice to have little cuddly animals right now.
No, she's not the most cuddly. She's kind of like, if I'm holding her, I can hold her for like an hour in my arms like a baby and she's fine. But if we're on the couch and I put her on my lap, she gets up and leaves. And sometimes she'll sleep on the corner of the couch and I'll go to sit next to her and she'll just look at me and walk. Yeah. But like she's doing right now. Yeah. But yeah, she's 13. We adopted her about 6 months ago. And we found out, we were fostering her, and then we found out that her owner died and she was brought to a kill shelter. And she was on the euthanized list because she was old and had some lumps. And when we found that out, me and my girlfriend were like, nope, she's ours. And people think she's a puppy now. She like totally Benjamin Buttoned herself, and she has a bunch of energy and she loves treats and chicken. And she has a pearl necklace that I got her and butterfly wings. And
my cat was literally sitting up here right when we first started, and he was like running around. I thought he was gonna be like all over the place, and the minute we started, he's like, bye.
Classic cats.
All right, you want you to hang out with me all day, and you're like, I'm leaving now.
No, I'll be back when you're trying to sleep, and I'll just be knocking things over in your room.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all we have for you guys today. Check out the description. We have a link to Steele FC's music video for Save Room below, and we hope you go watch it. And we can't wait for some new music soon. And keep kicking that football club.
I'm playing pickup with my friends with a mask on, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Nice.
All right. Bye, everyone.